Hey guys, welcome back. Now today's video, we're going back to the basics. So I basically put together a makeup kit that has everything that you need from A to Z. I really wanted to put together something that was very affordable and that really had everything that you need in order to start to do makeup. Because of course, when you're just starting, you really don't want to shell out a ton of money on a whole bunch of different products. You really just want to start off with the basics and things that you really do need in order to get a full look. And of course, this video isn't just for those of you who are just starting your collection. These are also just really great drugstore and affordable recommendations for you guys, and they're definitely like on the top of my list. Don't forget to let me know what you thought in the comments. Give this video a big thumbs up, and of course subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and let's get right into it. Now I really want this makeup kit to be universal, so I wanted these products to work for all different skin types, so I created this makeup kit with that in mind. So starting off with primer, this primer I think is probably one of the best affordable and drugstore primers that work well for dry skin, for oily skin, for normal skin, and it is the NYX Angel Veil Skin Perfecting Primer. I find that it smooths out pores, it smooths out skin texture, and it really just allows for a really great base for your foundation. So this is definitely one that I would recommend for anybody to start off with. Now speaking of foundation, it was difficult for me to recommend a specific foundation that is really gonna work for everybody because that doesn't really usually work. So I figured I would give you two different recommendations, one for more of a dry skin type and one for more of an oily skin type. The one that I would recommend the most for dry skin, this is actually not technically a drugstore brand, but it is a very affordable brand. This is the Bourjois Healthy Mix Serum Foundation. What I really like about this foundation is that it just has the perfect amount of coverage. I would say it's like a solid medium coverage, but you could definitely sheer it out to make it a little bit more sheer. This is really great for every day because it is so lightweight on the skin, but you could also definitely build it up for nighttime. It does not look cakey. It looks very natural on the skin, and it just has a really nice, very natural looking finish. It's not too dewy. Now, if you're looking for a foundation that is more suitable for an oilier skin type or a combo skin type, then I would definitely recommend the L'Oreal True Match. Now I actually do not have it with me right now. I recently had to throw it out because it was just really old and it was like a little bit expired. This is a really great foundation for oily and combo skin. This is actually the foundation that I used to use on clients when I first started out, and I didn't want to shell out like 50 bucks for the Make It Forever face and body, which is what I ended up doing much later on, but this foundation just worked so well. I feel like this is sort of like a cult favorite. A lot of people really do love it. And it's also not an overly matte foundation, which is really nice. It doesn't give you a very like flat matte look. So this is definitely one that I would recommend starting off with. Now moving on to setting powders. Now setting powders are really important because it really does sort of lock your foundation in place. Some people don't love to use setting powders. I'm sort of one of those people because my skin is pretty dry. A lot of the times I don't feel like I necessarily absolutely need a setting powder. But if you have more normal to oily skin, I would definitely recommend a setting powder just to make sure that your foundation is not gonna move and it's like locked and loaded. However, I still want to recommend a powder for those of you who are dry and oily, and I would have to recommend the Rimmel Stay Matte Powder. Now this is a long-lasting pressed powder in the shade Transparent. So this doesn't have any color in it, which is wonderful. So it will not alter the shade of your foundation. What I like so much about this powder is how finely milled it is. When you touch it, it feels very buttery. So because it is so finely milled, it will just sit on your skin just so beautifully, and you will not actually like see the powder on your skin, because a lot of the times powders could look powdery. And if you are a dry skin girl, don't let the Stay Matte title on here scare you, because I was definitely a little bit scared when I saw that, but it does not dry out my skin or accentuate any dry patches. Now setting your concealer underneath your eyes is also a very important step in doing your makeup, because it will really ensure that your concealer will last all day and that it doesn't crease. So my favorite powder to use to set underneath my eyes is the NYX HD Finishing Powder in Banana. This banana shade is really going to brighten up underneath your eyes, and I really do like this one in particular because it's not too yellow, so it's not going to look like you have yellow powder underneath your eyes. It's just going to very lightly brighten underneath, which is what yellow powders are supposed to do. So this is definitely one that I would recommend 100%. However, I was looking around in my collection and I noticed that the NYX Highlight and Contour Palette actually has the banana shade in here. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more cost effective, then I do think that buying the contour palette makes more sense, just because not only do you get the banana shade, but you also get 2 other setting powders, a highlighter and 4 bronzer and contour shades. So if you want something to play with a little bit more, if you want to have some more options and you're really into contouring and bronzing, then this is definitely a really great affordable option for you. So speaking of contouring products, now if you are not into buying a full palette that has all of those powders because you feel like you may not use them, then I would definitely recommend the Wet n Wild Mega Glow contouring palette. This is definitely one of the best contour palettes that I have found at the drugstore. This is very similar to the Marc Jacobs Mirage Filter Contour Palette. It almost looks exactly the same. It's absolutely ginormous as well, so you do get a lot of product in here. I'm actually using this contour shade right now on my cheekbones to contour a bit, and this powder on the other side, this is another great powder to use to set underneath the eyes. Now moving on to bronzers, my favorite bronzer from the drugstore currently is definitely the Rimmel Natural Bronzer. What I really like about this bronzer is that it's not too orange. It just has the right amount of warmth in it, that it won't make you look like an Oompa Loompa, which is wonderful. That's the last look that I want. Again, I'm wearing this on my face today just to really warm up my complexion. As for blushes, I would recommend this e.l.f. blush palette. This has 4 different blushes in here with a nice big mirror, and it comes in this really nice little compact palette, so it's also great for traveling. This is a great palette to start off with because you have 4 different shades in here, so you do get some variety and you get some choices for when you're doing your makeup. It's not like you only have one blush to do all of your looks with. Like, at least this gives you some variety and some color to play with. Now, as for highlighting, this was actually pretty easy for me to choose because this highlighting palette is probably one of my favorites in general. This is the NYX Strobe of Genius highlighting palette, and the reason I would recommend this again is because it's in a palette. You just get so many different options in here. So honestly, you really do not need much else. As far as the formula of these highlighters, they are just beautiful. They don't have like chunky glitter in them or anything. They look very smooth on the skin, and they do give you quite an intense highlight. So now let's move on to the eyes. And for the eyes, I did want to recommend things a little bit more generally, since eyeshadow is basically personal preference. Some people like brights, some people like neutrals, so I just want to recommend my favorite brands and my favorite like palettes so that you guys can choose for yourself. What I would recommend firstly is definitely the NYX Ultimate Eyeshadow Palettes. There is such a variety of shades in here. Each palette has their own like theme to it, so of course there's the warm neutrals, which is my personal favorite, the smoky and highlight, which definitely has more like smokier shades. Then you have the brights, so this is really great for those of you who like to experiment with color but don't want to break the bank. And then lastly, there is the cool neutrals, which has more cool tone eyeshadows. So I would recommend these just because the colors in here are beautiful, the quality of the eyeshadows are great, and you do get quite a lot of eyeshadows in each palette. Some other really great shadows that I think are definitely worth checking out are the ColourPop Super Shock eyeshadows. These are not from the drugstore, but they are very affordable. They are $5 on the ColourPop website. Now, all the eyeshadows from this range are just beautiful, but I would recommend the most like the more metallic shades. Like, for example, the one that I'm wearing on my lid right now is Telepathy, and this is just the most stunning like green gold shade. It's very unique, and they just have a ton of different shades like that. And if you've never felt a ColourPop eyeshadow, they are basically unlike any other eyeshadow that I've tried. When you touch it, it almost feels a little bit cushiony. It's a very interesting texture. It does not feel like a typical eyeshadow, but because of that texture, it really just makes their metallic eyeshadows just pop even more. Now, I also really want to recommend Makeup Geek eyeshadows. Again, you cannot find these at the drugstore, but they are pretty affordable. Their eyeshadows, I believe, are about $5 or $6 each. I would recommend these if you want to add some mattes to your collection. Finding mattes more at an affordable price can be a little bit difficult just because mattes could sometimes be chalky or not quite as pigmented. So I want to recommend the Makeup Geek mattes because the quality of them definitely beats any other drugstore matte that I've personally found. So all of these shades over here, all of the basic shades that I would recommend the most, if you're just starting your collection, you just sort of want just the basics, these are all the ones that I would definitely recommend, and I will put all the names of each of these shadows in the little product shot that I do. Now, I almost forgot to talk about eyeliners. I would definitely recommend a black, a brown, and nude eyeliner to start off, and my 3 favorites are these 3 right over here. My favorite nude eyeliner is the Pixi Eye Bright eyeliner. This is just a very creamy nude shade. What I like to use the nude eyeliners for is in my waterline. I really find that it opens up the eyes and makes them look really nice and bright without having white in the waterline because sometimes white can look a little bit too harsh. And as for the black, definitely the NYX Jet Black eyeliner is my favorite. This is a very, very black and creamy eyeliner. This is part of their Slide On, Glide On, Stay On, definitely a turn on waterproof extreme shine eyeliners. And then lastly, my favorite brown eyeliner is the NYX Slide On, Glide On eyeliner in the shade Brown Perfection. This is my favorite brown just because it's a very deep and rich brown. It's like almost like a chocolatey brown. It looks so beautiful, and if you want something that's not quite as harsh as black, then brown is your guy. Now I actually have two recommendations for brow pencils just because they are both very similar and I do like them both pretty equally. They are basically the exact same concept as well. So the first one over here is the NYX Micro Brow Pencil. It's basically a dupe for the Anastasia Brow Wiz. It has a very, very fine point, so you're able to create very fine hair-like strokes with this, and it creates a very natural look. Very similar to the NYX Micro Brow. This is the L'Oreal. This is called the Brow Stylist Definer. It's basically the exact same concept. It has a very, very fine tip where you're able to create very small hair-like strokes, and it's another dupe for the Anastasia Brow Wiz. Now, as for the mascara that I would recommend from the drugstore, it is definitely the Maybelline Lash Sensational Full Fan Effect Mascara. This mascara, I feel like, really does everything. It lengthens and volumizes and it separates your lashes. Now, I actually have a liquid eyeliner that I want to mention, but I don't have it here with me. I was trying to look for it for, I swear, 20 minutes, but I cannot find it anywhere. It is the L'Oreal Super Slim Liquid Eyeliner. It's one of my favorites. I've been using it forever. It has a very, very fine tip, and the tip is not too flexible that it sort of just is like too flimsy and it goes everywhere, but it's also firm enough that you're able to create a very sharp line with it, and I just love it. So now moving on to lip products, I wanted to give you guys a few different categories, some mattes, some just normal creamy lipsticks, as well as some glosses. So as for mattes, the ones that I would recommend the most are definitely the ColourPop Matte X formula. Now these again are very affordable. I believe they're about $5 or $6 each. I like these because they go on completely matte. They are very pigmented and not choppy whatsoever. They do not pull on your lips when you apply them. They're still very, very creamy, and yet they are so comfortable on the lips, even despite how matte they actually are, because a lot of the times matte lipsticks sort of feel like they're sucking the life out of your lips. I was able to eat a 3-course meal wearing a bright orange one of these, and it lasted throughout the whole entire thing. I barely had to reapply it afterwards. It was great. As for lipsticks, my favorites from the drugstore are definitely from Maybelline. I just love how creamy they are, and they come in such a huge variety of colors. So again, lipstick is a very personal choice, so I don't have like exact color recommendations. Just generally, Maybelline lipsticks are some to definitely check out. Now, as for glosses, I would have to highly recommend the NYX Butter glosses. These are some of my favorite gloss formula because of the texture of them. They are not sticky whatsoever. If you do not like sticky glosses, then these are definitely some that you have to check out because they just feel like butter on your lips, and they just have the perfect amount of pigmentation to them. They're not too pigmented that you can't wear like a lipstick underneath without having it show through, but they're pigmented enough that you could wear them alone and still give your lips a little bit of color, and they're very glossy and they smell like cake. Now, as for lip liners, I would definitely recommend the Milani Color Statement lip liners. These lip liners are so creamy and so pigmented. They last for such a nice amount of time on the lips as well, and they just glide on your lips so easily without pulling. They're very easy to apply, and they come in some really great colors. These two are my two favorite nude shades. This is number 04, which is actually the one that I'm wearing on my lips right now, and 09, which is more of a deeper nude. So that is it for my drugstore and affordable makeup kit. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and did find it helpful. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what your like must-have item is from the drugstore, like what you need to have in your makeup kit, because I would love to know. Give this video a big thumbs up, and of course subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a first impression tutorial. Now, I have recently got